Okay, today's video we're talking about remarketing, increasing the ROI that you're getting from your PPC that drives new people into your site, how we can automatically for 99% of you guys watching here, increase the amount of money that marketing spend that you're using to drive new visitors to your site right now to hopefully buy whatever product or service you have, whether you're selling it to a business or end consumer, whatever. It all works for regardless of what you're doing or what you're selling. How to make that amount of finite money magically start making more money than it did before. Okay, we're going to make money out of thin air here. Respectively, it all comes down to one thing: remarketing. Not just any remarketing though, very specific, methodical ways to do remarketing, which I'm going to discuss here on this video, which I do on how to do remarketing on projects that I'm working on, because I split tested pretty much how to do remarketing in every which way, dozens of different times. This is where I'm at today. To say this is going to be what I'm using 5 years from now, that's not really the case. But I've been doing PPC for 15 years now. I found since remarketing came out, way back 2010 or so, it has been an evolution of my system that I've been using to make marketing that I'm using work, the traffic that I'm driving and convert better, which is, by the way, the entire reason why you do remarketing. People think of remarketing like, oh wow, remarketing is a profitable channel. Remarketing is not a channel. Remarketing is what you use to get other channels that you are getting, other PPC ads that you're driving new prospects in with to work better. So something that would work and get $4 of revenue for every dollar you've spent in ad spend before, you're using marketing after the fact that once they get to the site and haven't purchased yet, the ones that have not purchased or responded yet, or even they've responded but they haven't bought yet, which is a lot of the other main way that the remarketing makes you more money, to get that 4-to-1 to an 8-to-1 or 10-to-1 return. Respectively, if you do remarketing the right way, the way that I'm going to show you here, really dial it in, you can take a 4-to-1 return on an initial traffic source and get it to 8-to-1 real easy. Why? This is because you're helping the user out. Way too many people come to me wanting to have me just wave a magic wand on their advertising, because I run a PPC agency here, and which I try to, everything I do comes down to helping the user make a decision better for what is being sold. And a lot of times, sorry to, just to gotta be frank here, it's about, you have to put actual work in to help the user. If you help the user, you're gonna make more money. And you help the user by following up the user in such a way that is going to educate the user for one, but also instill more trust in what you sell, number two, so they can more easily come to the conclusion that they should have came to in the first place, which is to buy your product or service over some other source in which they don't want to make the wrong decision, so they delay. You give them the extra little bit of information they need, now they'll buy. But there's a very specific way to maximize what you're going to get out of this, what I told you, the remarketing, to instill a little bit more trust in the user and get them over, the people on the fence, to shake them off at a much higher rate than you had before. Two things to keep in mind when building a remarketing strategy for your business to do what I've just told you about is the following. First key thing, the more times you can get people to your site, the more likely they are to buy, the more money you're going to make. So again, remarketing is not a channel. Remarketing is what you use to get other marketing to work and be profitable or more profitable, so you can double down on it and get even more customers coming in from that traffic source or other traffic sources such as Google, organic, everything that you have coming in. Statistically, people don't think about it this way, but they absolutely should. The more, it's just like I've mentioned on other videos, if you do phone customer service, which you should be doing, or phone sales, like if people got a question before they buy, they call. The longer, statistically, you talk to someone on that phone, the more likely they are to buy because they got more familiarity of your company. Therefore, they're more secure and trust you more. Therefore, they'll buy more. If everybody trusted you automatically when they came in, it really wouldn't matter what you sold. They would buy from you because that's just how things work. This is why people buy from influencers, that whole thing. So though, with that, a digital equivalent or equivalent to that as it comes to remarketing is the more times you can get somebody to interact with your ad and get them to your site, you're going to notch up the likelihood that person's going to buy. So everything that you're doing with remarketing is coming up with more and more enticing ways to get that person to be willing to come back to the site within reason. You can't say hot chicks over here, and that's not going to work. But if it makes logical sense in terms of what that user that's interested in what you sell would click on, that's going to help you make more money. And why is it going to make more money? Help you make more money? Because the cost per click, if you do this the right way, the way that I do it, it's literally about 20, 30 cents to get somebody back to the site. And you're increasing the likelihood they're going to buy by a good, 25% to upwards of 100% for that 25 cents. So you're trading in a tiny bit of money to get a whole lot more money out of what you just paid 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 bucks to get the person to your site in the first place. So you can do the math. If somebody will buy at 50% higher rate than they did before if they come back to my site, and I've got to pay 25 cents to get that chance, and I've paid $3 to get them to come to the site in the first place, now you see where the doubling of the sales come from on the initial traffic source. Anyway, moving forward, second key concept, therefore you need to be valuing users differently to max out return for new traffic coming in. So yes, people are going to buy from you at a higher rate if you can seduce them to coming back to your site to get more information, to even re-review what they initially were looking at. And so as long as it has to do with your product or service and buying it, it doesn't matter really, as I've found, how you get them back to the site. But there's key ways that I found that does it better than others, which I'll talk about here shortly. But because, like I said, each time that somebody gets to the site, the more likely they are to buy, the more that you can, and at that point, you can value the user more based upon how many times they've been to the site. Therefore, you can be actually, to maximize your return out of this remarketing thing, be willing and set your marketing up to be willing to pay more for a person that's been to your site more, therefore more likely to purchase, therefore should technically be valued at a higher amount to you, and set things up in which you can rank stack the people in which you've already got to your site, what they're worth based upon how many times they've came to the site already. Okay, that's a very advanced way to think about your marketing. But if you want to, be up at the upper echelons of your market, and you don't have unlimited money like maybe your top competitors do because they've been entrenched at the top for a long time, this is a way to beat them because they're not doing this. Once you've gotten fat and happy, this is always the way that the Goliath comes down. They don't stop paying attention to little stuff like this that they can figure out. They can afford people like me to advise them of this stuff, but they don't give a crap because it's not. I could promise you, as a side note, I'm not trying to plug my services here, but people don't come to me when things are good. They come to me when crap's hit the fan. So, which in that situation, they're least likely, the least best position to respond to what situation they're in. So, in retrospect, to go after those people, you want to be those people. You just got to be willing to do the simple stuff that you know works, which you can get on these videos, and each thing that you do, you're going to crawl your way up to the top naturally. So this is one way to do it, of many. So what can you do to maximize your results using this remarketing and with these key concepts I told you about already? So there's a simple system that you can do this, that you don't have to think too hard and you don't have to reinvent the wheel, which you'll get pretty good results. You can always tack on your own spin to things, like I always encourage you to do with my strategies, but here it is. First of all, you're going to create separate audiences for different people. So like I told you here, people, based upon how many times they've came back, they're worth more to you. So in the end, we're going to want to be able to bid more based upon how many times they've been back to the site. So I'm going to set up an audience. You could do this easily in Google Analytics. If you're doing Google Display Network remarketing, which is, I do Google Display Network remarketing over AdRoll or all these other places because I get a higher ROI if you were wondering about that. I use AdRoll when Google Display Network won't let me advertise for certain categories, which is the main reason and the place I'll secondarily go. AdRoll, not only just being more expensive, which they're like a middleman, they don't have near the ways to filter out traffic. I want to be able to, not to say, you definitely could set up different pixels. It's a little bit, it's more cumbersome, but through Google Analytics and make it really easy to where you can have an audience set up so if they bid to your site, they make your list. If they click and come back twice, you can have a separate list that says they've been to the site twice, but only twice. And you can have a separate list, have they been to the site 3 times? And you can import all those audiences to your Google Ads account so that we can have different strategies for based upon how many times that person's been to the site, because we know they're worth more the more times they've been there. And the goal is to literally do everything we can to get them back to the site, because the more times we get them back, the more likely they're going to buy, and the more money our new traffic is going to pay off. It has the potential to pay off. Once you get so far with it, anything that you do to drive new traffic in, by the way, is going to work so much easier because you have that doubling of whatever you would have got otherwise, like I said. So you're throwing money away now, but if you're respectively, before trying to struggle too hard to get new traffic to work, which if you're already struggling, I always recommend you work the bottom of the funnel up. You work the stuff that's as closest to purchase as possible first to get more out of it, because that's the low-hanging fruit. If you have an e-commerce site, it's trying to get people that have hit the cart but haven't bought to buy more by giving them, you say, abandoned cart, finish your purchase. We'll give you $50 off if you purchase right now and click on this ad and use this discount code. That works great. And then the next thing is people that have been to the site 5 times plus, now that's what we're going to focus, and then so on and so forth. Then you rank stack things. So anyway, you set that up. It's pretty easy to do. It's not as complicated as you think. I'm always doing remarketing, not just on Google Display Network, but on Facebook, with the idea being that regardless of where that person goes, I'm going to pay $6, $10, whatever, to get that person that I know is going to be buying what I sell pretty soon from Google search. I'm going to have a whole system set up behind them to get them to buy. Like I said, come back to the site at the highest rate possible so they buy at the highest rate possible, so we can do as much of that front-end traffic, driving front-end traffic as possible. But if they go to whatever sites on the web, I have my banner ads for them. But I'll also do YouTube. If they go to YouTube, I got my video ads there for them. If they go to Facebook, I got my Facebook ads there for them. I'll do all 3 together 90% of the time. And so with that, with Facebook, there's tools like DriftRock to where if you could set up the layered audiences a little bit easier. Like I said, these other platforms, you can technically, there's other ad networks you can do remarketing. I'm going to do as many ad networks as possible, actually, with YouTube, Facebook, Google being the main ones. But there's other tools that can make setting up these audiences rather easily, and in which you can manually add people to lists, to where as long as you get their email address or their phone number, you can add it to this tool, and then automatically your list updates on Facebook at the same time. Even if they're doing it offline, just wanted to throw that in there. But your goal should be, as soon as they hit the site, your remarketing, as soon as they leave that site, which it should do automatically for you anyway, as long as your list gets updated, that your ads start right away triggering for that person that you have lined up for them to get them to buy at the highest rate you can. But moving forward, the second step is you create years worth of offers, with the emphasis on the word years. So respectively, you're just trying it out. You may not want to believe or buy what I'm saying, which is fine right away. You can test out what I'm telling you, and you just come up with a few ads and see the likelihood. Basically, all you have to do to convince yourself, by the way, this is actually valid, is look at your year-over-year sales by month, going back 3 years, so you can see February this year versus the previous year, what your sales were as a ratio of how much PPC ad dollars you were spending. You add remarketing, you should automatically be getting more overall sales for that next month than you got the previous years without spending more ad money, because you're going to reinvest, or should I say invest, 10% of what you were spending on traffic to get new people in on this remarketing. Okay, that's the way you verify it to yourself. But with that, it's going to be a lot of work to set up all your remarketing ads. That's just the way it is. Sorry, but if you want these results of doubling your results of traffic coming in, this is what you got to do. At least once it's all set up, it's all automatic. So, but respectively, to have good remarketing, you're not going to have just static ads. It's kind of like Facebook. You don't want the same ads going all the time because people get banner blindness, if you will, once they've seen an ad a few times. But so with that, I'll have my staple ads, which never change, but then I'll also have some ads that change every single month. If it's February, I'm going to have February promotion, 10% off anything in store. Use this discount code. It ends February 31st. And then in March, I'm going to have a different sale. March sale. April hits. April sale. And so because having some of the ads which are current to that month, and if you want a little extra results, you do 3. You do like beginning of month sale, mid-month sale, end of month sale, and have the ads change 3 times a month. You'll get a little bit extra out of this strategy. That will provoke overall with your marketing a lot greater results than if you only had static ads running all the time. So respectively though, what I'm saying here with this is I'll have, knowing if you believe what I'm saying here, which again, just take it for what you will. This is what I do. I'm going to have an ad for February lined up so that when January ends, you can easily code through Facebook and Google. For Google Display Network and through Facebook, my banner ads that show up and YouTube, of course, my ads that show up for a person immediately after they leave the site, that on February, my February pre-planned promotion that's going to go on the ads that are going to try to entice people to come back will automatically start showing up without having me to do anything. That way I can have a whole month to prepare the ads and all that. And then when February ends and March starts, my March ads will automatically start. And so what I do just automatically with our clients, just to alleviate, because I know this strategy works and it's our go-to basically every single time. Like I said, 90+% of the time this works. If you're non-e-commerce and you're like doing lead generation, I get it. If you're like an attorney or something, this sometimes it'll be too cheesy to do. But you just have to offer, most of the time with that promotion, you're offering them a gimme. Most of the time that what works is you give them a discount to get them back, but it could be, if you're a movie company, free boxes this month only to get some urgency built into your whole model there. But instead of struggling every single month to come out with something, I will have an ad planned out one a month for the whole year and have it cycle out so the February ads turn on in February and March and keep going. If you're e-commerce, you absolutely need to do this. If you're non-e-commerce, as long as you're not in a snooty, sophisticated space like, a corporate attorney, then you normally will get a lot more results if you do this. And I'll plan it all out ahead of time so they come on at the right time. Okay, if you are, but you get the general idea. I'll leave it at that. So just to give you a general idea of how this works when I do this. Third thing here, you're going to split test the offers and amounts. So you'll have a bunch of remarketing ads. I usually do 5 to 10 different remarketing ads, the ones that don't change ever, that cycle out for the user, that has testimonials, reviews, third-party like articles written about you, mentions in magazines, my reviews on Google, influencer who's talked about the product, and I'll build each one of these things into another ad that points to the review or what have you, and have 5 to 10 different ads so people are constantly going to see, like one day they'll see one ad, next day they'll see another, and you're telling them a story in these ads. And I'll usually have those ads show up for at least 6 months for a user, if not 540 days, which is the max that Google provides by default. And I'll have, like I said, there'll be some ads that are just to build urgency, because people the thing is, the reason why you don't get a lot of sales if you have nothing like that's current to what in your marketing and your promotions that are current to the time, is people procrastinate. They say, oh, I'm going to buy it. They think truly they are, but then they delay it and then they forget, or they buy something else, or they run out of money and spend the money on something else. And so if you have that ad that shows up for them, it says this month only, you have to buy it right now with this discount code on this ad. Otherwise, you're paying 10% more next week. You're going to get more purchases with that, because they're going to delay. They're not going to procrastinate as much, which means they're not going to get distracted as much, which means they're going to buy what they intended to buy at a higher rate than they did. But my point is here, respectively, some markets that promotion that you normally give, so you're going to basically stick with the same thing. If you offer 10% as your usual discount that you give in February and March and April and so on, then you keep doing that. Why? Because you're going to split test. Once you've got all these set up, you're going to test 10% versus 15% versus 20%. And yes, I know you're saying, Corey, 20%, that eats into my margins a lot. Well, you have to look at your overall sales, and you got to do the math. Your sales will go higher when you offer 20%. You're just going to have to run a formula to see where the sweet spot is that maximizes the profit the most. It changes a little bit business to business. Everybody's a little bit different. I'm going to test that. And one thing you actually can do is you can do customer lifetime value tracking. So if people normally buy more than once from you, or even if they don't actually, what you want to actually do is track how much money you're spending on the remarketing to get that person as a whole to buy from you. Trying to track the value of what it costs to get them into your site for the first time, plus the remarketing, as your overall cost to get the customer, and use that to determine how much you're going to actually pay overall to get the customer, what's too much and which exceeds the threshold, in which is still going to make your business profitable. And because you've set up separate audiences for each time that they come to your site, you can respectively assume, okay, only 20% click on 2 remarketing ads, and only 10% click on 3, and only 5% click on 4. You can kind of, by seeing the degradation, how it degrades there, how many people actually, what's the average amount of ads that people click on, and what's the cost per click with all of that. And then you can add that to what it costs to get somebody to the site for the first time. You can overall sense the value of what a customer's worth. So with that, you can add that plus whatever discount you have to the overall sales you're getting, and you can kind of see where your sweet spot is and how much you could be offering to maximize the profit that you're making from your campaigns. I know that gets kind of complicated, but if you want to make this as much money as possible from available, there's only usually so many people that are active, ready to buy. If they're searching for buy red shoes and you sell red shoes, there's only so many people searching for it. So what you do with the remarketing here will determine if you're going to make, $1 million a year versus 2 or 3 based upon your game after the initial click. So I usually do some tracking of what the overall marketing cost, remarketing plus first click, to determine, as I'm doing my split testing of how much my discount should be as well, what's the sweet spot of the discount. And then once you find that, all future ads for all future years will have that about a discount on it. And as a side note, it sounds like a lot of work, but once maybe you just say, it's good enough, I'll just offer 10%, who cares if it's not optimized. Either way you do it, 10% is January sale, 10% off anything in store. February sale, 10% off anything in store. I know that's a little disingenuous, but trust me, it works really, really well. When you add that in with other ads that are going to shore up the trust issue with the user, where they don't maybe not quite trust you or know who to trust yet, and then you actually build urgency with those timely ads I mentioned with the discount. Respectively, once you've set up and figured out how much you're going to offer, you can do an ad for January, February, throughout the whole year like I said to do. And then next year, guess what? You can do the same exact ads. And the next year after that, you could do the same exact ads. And you can actually program your ads to come off and on for the next 5 years. And like I said, I'm not misrepresenting anything here. Once you have that, if you reprogram it so they come off and on for the next 5 years, you don't have to do anything. Whatever you boost you get from having that one discount ad that's relevant to that month for the user, you're going to get automatically without touching anything once this is set up. And so, but you definitely want to have some timely ads in there. What you have in your remarketing, if you do have repeat sales in your business to the same people, you're going to have different ads for non-customers versus customers. So you'll have totally separate ad strategy for each. For non-customers, you're going to have mostly what you're working on is building trust. If they trusted you, like I said, they would buy. So I'm going to have a customer testimonial with their headshot and their quote and then their name and all of that. And if I can do it, link to their Facebook profile, which is like really ballsy. If you can do that, that works really, really well. And then the next day they see another testimonial. And then the next day after that, they see another testimonial, all which are on different ads. And the user's thoughts are, holy crap. Like if there's 15 people saying that this is great and people I can verify so I know they're not fake testimonials, these are the guys to go with. You're just trying to give them a little bit more assurance that you're probably more trusted than anybody else and you'll get a majority of the sales in the market. This is how things work. That's why brands are as profitable as they are. You become the brand and the user, because ultimately if you're buying travel services, there is no brand that they know of. So through the remarketing, you become the brand if you do it the right way, the way that I'm saying here. And you have 5 to 10 different ads, of which you can have the discount ad as a part of your overall sequence. So you'll have 5 to 10 different ads with your reviews. If somebody wrote an article to you about you, you mention that on an ad and you point to that. And yeah, you're saying, Corey, why would I point somebody to another article instead of my site? What somebody else says about you is 4 times as strong as what you could say about yourself. You could take that article from the other site and put it on your own site and point people there. It's not going to work as good as pointing them to the article itself, especially if they have a link back to your site from within that article, but even if they don't. Your whole goal with these remarketing ads is not to get people to respond right away. You're building up an overall level of trust. And once you get over a tipping point, that person, if they're going to buy, they're going to buy from you. That's what your whole goal with all this is. A lot of people think, oh, I got tracking set up and, oh, not enough people are clicking through my remarketing ad with a testimonial. Oh, screw that. Well, I love that because I know how it works and I have no competition. Now, I'm not saying that arrogantly here. I'm just telling you the reality of this is those remarketing ads are used to build up trust, and you can think of it like a bucket, and you have a trust bucket, and you're adding up your one drop at a time. When it gets to a certain level, that person when they're gonna buy from you. They're gonna buy from who they feel the most familiar with at that time, and that's going to be you because you've done your work ahead of time with these remarketing ads. And so, respectively, most people, when they initially start searching for what you do, unless it's like a broken toilet, when they go to your website, right, they're not going to buy right then most of the time. So when you have these other ads recycle out for the user, you automatically become the most familiar one to them, so that 2 weeks later when they do go to buy, they got paid, they eventually got around to buying because they were searching for it at work and they couldn't buy it then and they meant to buy it later on, and now they see your sale ad and therefore it got lit a fire under their butt, whatever. They're buying from you now because they're saying, crap, I need to buy this today. You've gotten the sale because you've done all this prior work. And you've done everything you can to get that person back to your site, because the more times, like I said, they got back to your site, the more likely they are going to have to buy. The trust bucket fills up each remarketing ad that they click on. Respectively, if you want to have extra credit here, all your static remarketing ads, you're also going to split test those. You're going to test an ad, you're going to look at the click-through rate. Your whole goal is just to get them to click on it, not to look at the ROI of the individual ad, because the ROI comes from the overall package of remarketing influence on that user and how much it gets the user to buy in what you paid XYZ dollars to get them to your site in the first place, so that you can do more of that front-end remarketing. You got to look at it as a whole, like I said. And lifetime value looking at the full picture of what it costs to get the customer in the first place. You have to be looking at it at an overall level. But you can take the testimonial ad, which has the headshot, and you could say, well, if I added the headshot, but I added a picture of, chest up versus just the head, the ad now gets 25% more click-through. Well, now you know that you can use that ad from now on. You test each ad, you get absolutely milk as most click-through on these remarketing ads as you can to really fill up the trust bucket to the highest, to where it reaches the top at the most frequent rate you can for each user you have coming to the site. Therefore, you get the highest return from the traffic coming in as possible. Okay, hopefully all that makes sense. Respectively then, just some numbers here to kind of put into frame of reference how much this actually means for your business. As I mentioned, if you have repeat customers, you're going to have a whole separate strategy for customers. For customers, there's two main avenues in terms of the remarketing ads that you have showing up to get them back to the site. Because the more with the customers that you have to get them to buy again, the more often you get them back to the site, the more they're going to buy overall, and the more likely they're going to buy again, just in general. You could see this with offline businesses. But for decades, grocery stores would have a weekly flyer in there. They're not responding when they see the flyer. They say, that's interesting. And then when they go shopping on Saturday, now they've gotten you when you normally would have went on Saturday. This online stuff it's not fundamentally different than anything else that occurs offline. But they know if they have a special that's going on that Saturday, that person's more likely to, yes, go shopping that Saturday in general, but just to you've eliminated all possible other choices, which they've got you locked in there. But with the customers, you offer one of two things to get them back to the site so that you have more overall total purchases that you'll have overall, which comes from getting people that comes to the site more frequently, in which each time they come to the site overall, for whatever reason, the more likely they'll just buy it in general. You either offer ads that show your most frequent your current updates that are exciting, can't be boring like, oh, we hired another CTO. No, it's like we have this new hot product that's just really hot, or it could be we are we're offering a new VIP level service, whatever. Either do that or you have the discount. If you purchase and re-up this month, we're going to give you 10% off. If you spend over $1,000, we'll give you 20% off. You spend over $5,000, we'll give you 30% off, which is another way to do the discount, by the way. Some people do a flat amount off, like $50. Some people do a percentage off. Some people do a percentage off if you're over a certain amount, if you have tight margins, which is a good way to go about doing things, respectively. You can test which one of those works better for you, but that's the way to get more overall purchases. A lot of people don't do this, by the way, to their current customers because they think, oh, all that you're doing is just pulling forward the purchase that they already made, and then I'm giving them a discount. No. Well, yes, if you do it constantly, they'll just wait for the next sale. That is correct. I've found if you do it once every 3 months, you'll overall increase the amount of purchases any one customer will make from you that come in from other traffic sources that you use to get them in the first place. And you run it for, a couple weeks, let's say 10 to 14 days, and then it's done. And then 3 months later, you do it again. You're getting way more overall purchases from your customer. Why? Because they remember you, and if you pull out that demand because they're saying, "Oh crap, I better order. I'm going to have to pay 10% more next month because I think I needed it next month," and you're just locking down that purchase and eliminating the chance that they're going to end up going with somebody else and get seduced by somebody else. Anytime you can lock down the next purchase, you do it, because that purchase may not be there because they may change their mind. They spent the money on something else in their business, whatever. Or they spent on some other similar product for themselves. Anyway, going back to the topic at hand, so that's how you do remarketing for customers. Non-customers is all about building trust. And I already went through the ad examples, and you throw in something that's current to the month that you're in, and give them a reason why you're doing it that month. January sale, we're doing it for New Year's, so they know there's a reason for the sale, which makes them more likely to understand that it's only going to be done in January, whether or not it isn't. And you get more if you didn't mention New Year versus just saying January. I know that from testing. Each time they come to the site, they're more likely to purchase. As I said, from traffic you use to get them to the site in the first place, that person will buy at a higher rate the more times that they've revisited through these remarketing ads. The first visit, and it was tough for me to do this because for each business it varies a lot, okay? I went through my data. I've kind of summed up the general gist of what you're going to get when you actually execute what I told you as far as a general formula that works basically for most people most of the time here. You want instant money that you can easily do. What you're going to get for each visit. So that, going back to what I said initially, to really maximize for what you're doing here, you should spend a little bit more knowing that they've been to the site 2 times versus 1, because you know that that person's going to be, if you get them back to the site 3 times, they're going to convert higher than if they came back from the second time. And your ad you want to be more aggressive with your ads for the person that's been there twice versus 1 time, because you know, and therefore it'd be more aggressive. You got to spend more per click, but it will be worth it for you to do it. Whereas you can only be so aggressive starting out because obviously the math has to factor out. So as they click on more ads, naturally they want to click on more ads because they wouldn't have clicked on any ads if they weren't interested in what you had to say in the first place. But you're going to be more and more and more aggressive each ad they click on. The first visit, you might have let's just say your general conversion rate you were getting before was 0.5% from the people who click on an ad, never been to your site before, to a purchase. If that was your starting point, the second time you get it back to the site, you'll roughly double the amount of conversion rate you had from the first click. Why? Because obviously they didn't give a damn about you. They wouldn't have clicked on any of your ads. Respectively, in general, if you get back to the site again, like I said, you're doing anything you can that's relevant to get them back to the site, because each time you're getting them a little bit closer to like being sure to buy, if you will. The third time you get them back, instead of a 1%, you double it again, roughly speaking. They click on more than 1 ad. Now they're really, really interested at that point. If you get them back to the site 4 times, now it starts to have a little bit of a diminishing return after that, I've found. 3.5%, but still almost double. And then it goes down. The more times they come to the site, the more likely they are to purchase, but there's diminishing returns. Like, you're not going to get to where they visited the site 12 times and they're going to convert it like 80%. It's not the way that it works, as I've found. But once you get to 5+ visits, it'll be 10 times the conversion rate the first click was. And so you're investing your money almost up front to be able to get a position to where the other ads that you run later on in the process with that same user, to be in position to get that insane conversion rate that you will get in the end, to where it costs 25 cents to get them to your site and they convert it at 5%. And that person, anybody who's in that audience where they've gotten to the site already at least 4 times, has got like a 12,000% return, if you will. You've got to invest in that user, and you just do that through offering more information, and you give them a reason to come back to the site that's time relevant, along with, if money isn't the issue and they weren't procrastinating and trust was an issue, which is more frequent before they become a customer, you do all I call it draining the objections, all the questions that they use to try to stop from making a purchase when they speak to a salesperson. All those questions, you answer them in the ad. So you can have testimonials, reviews, all that, but you also want to, if your frequent question is, I don't know if this will work for my car, you answer that in an ad. Works for every car, every single time, and you point them, if you want the most results, you point them to an article on your site that then explains that in detail for the person that wants more information. Otherwise, most people will just see it and go, okay, I guess it will work for my car. That's why the ad, if you look at the ROI from people clicking on the ad individually, it won't add up, because the greater effect of your ad is the people that are influenced and see it while they're like on a new site. It registers, it goes into a mental deposit, if you will, making to where later on when they do buy, they don't think of that negative thought that would distract them from finishing the purchase. And you've done all the work to quash all those things to where they finally got the money, they have to buy from somebody, they go straight to you, there's no friction whatsoever, and they buy. Anyway, you get the general idea of how well this can work. Customers, like I said, when they buy, now they're just entering another remarketing sequence, which has updates or discounts time to time. It's done at a different interval. With that, if you have a lot of cool product updates or new trends or whatever, you load up as many as it makes sense that you can actually get people to click on. If you can't get people to click on them, to just eliminate those. But you combine those with the periodic, like every 3-month discounts is what you'll do for the people that are your customers. If you're in a market where people buy more than once from you, the first time, let's say, assuming though, the first customer that you have, respectively, if they came to the site, they'll convert at 1.5%, whereas the initial person will convert at like 0.5% if they haven't been a customer. So triple the rate in which they're making their second purchase than no purchase at all, or they haven't made a purchase yet. Now, if you can get them back to the site a second time, and they've bought once, you'll double the conversion rate that you have from one time if they have only bought one time. If they've bought twice, you can get them back to the site with another one of your remarketing ads, whatever you do there. They'll convert it roughly 5%. So you get a little, it's not double that time, but it goes down respectively. It's similar to how this diminishing level of returns comes into play once you get to about 3 revisits. If you get them to 3 purchases, the conversion rate in which if you get them back to the site to finish the 4th purchase is 7.5%, roughly speaking. And if you can get them back to the site after they made 4 purchases plus, then you can convert it 10%. So each time they make a purchase, they're more likely to make a purchase in the future. A lot at first, a little bit more as you continue, as you go up down the scale of the more purchases they make, but still it gets more and more likely they'll buy the more times you get them back and the more purchases they've made, if you follow me. Respectively, to sum all this up, I talk how you need to maximize your returns from all this. Since you've spent all the time setting this up, you're going to value, this one. You're going to value, that the more times they come to your site now, the more likely the more they're worth to you to get back to your site, because they'll purchase at a higher rate, which the click still costs the same to get them back to the site. So the return is higher, that you would have invested in more money the more times they've been to your site, because you could have easily afford it, because the likelihood they'll buy is higher and the ROI is automatically going to be higher. So I'll automatically, when I set up all my audiences so that if they've been to my site one time, they're going to this audience, and therefore they'll see my remarketing ads and I'm going to bid this. If they've been to the site twice, they go into this audience and I'm going to bid this to get the person to come back that's been to the site twice to get them to come back to the third time. If they've been to my site the third time, I'm going to spend this to get them to come back to the site for the fourth time, and so forth, to where I'll automatically start off spending 20% more per click if they've been to the site twice versus once, and then I'll spend 20% more than what I spent to get them to the site the second time to get them back to the site the third time, and it keeps going to where I'll spend 20% more to get them to the site the fourth time than I did to get them to the site the third time, and it keeps going till usually I don't set up like 15 visits. If they get to the 5+ visits, that'll be the last audience I set up, and I'll just treat everybody 5+ the same. Same thing if 5+ purchases, by the way, because it's not real significant. But as you though run the campaign, you'll get real data coming in. You'll realize how much for your exact product and service that you're offering, what it is that somebody who's been to your site twice is worth to your business, and you'll be able to, instead of just putting a plus 20% bid adjustment, you'll be able to put an exact amount based upon them, instead of being twice as likely to buy, maybe they're 3 times more likely to buy. So instead of plus 20%, I'll do plus 40%. That'll get me more purchases from the people who've been there to the site twice, because the ad will show up more aggressively to that person because I'm bidding a little bit more, and we'll get more ad spots in which we're being outbid right now, because that's how it works. And you get, so that's in general why you do that. And respectively, that's in a nutshell how I do my remarketing at a high level, and how you're going to be able to increase the ROI from anything you're driving new traffic in with, by helping the user make a decision and giving them a reason to buy now versus procrastinating till later, which is also going to increase your ROI, and doing it in a systematic way that whatever you're investing in the remarketing that you're doing, which you should be investing 10 to 20% of your budget overall into the remarketing, because you're going to make more money doing that than spending all of it getting people into the site for the first time, because not a lot of people want to trust you right away, which is the whole reason for doing this. They know exactly how much you should invest in the remarketing. If you're getting a return, you know that you can, whether to double down on that or not, or maybe it's a little bit too aggressive. You can find how to set it up, hit the sweet spot for your business. And given you could literally double the amount of return your campaigns that drove new visitors in, once it's actually set up pretty much by default the way that I mentioned here, you'll get the double every time, and potentially more, given that you spend the time to do all the extra work once it's set up to dial it in and test things and so on and so forth, and really get people to click on your ads and be as enticing as literally possible, so you get the maximum amount of revisits to the site. So anyway, that's the whole thing in a nutshell. I have a ton of other PPC strategy, money-making strategy videos on this channel. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, you should definitely check them out. I have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how show you how I build my campaigns for clients to guarantee the results, in which if you want to see in detail how things work, you can go there and actually see that for yourself. If you have any questions about anything I mentioned here, things that you think I should have covered perhaps and didn't, leave me a comment below. I get back to every person who leaves me a comment on this channel within a day or two. And apart from that, hope you enjoyed. Hopefully this does make you some money, and I'll hopefully also see you on the next one that comes out in a day or two.